Welcome to today's explainer. We've got a massive picture to look at today, and before we fill up this whole 16 by 9 screen with the data, we're starting with a fundamental conflict. There is this huge, undeniable canyon between those shiny, reassuring retirement headlines you constantly read and the actual financial reality that millions of people are waking up to. If you've ever felt like your bank account just doesn't match what the financial articles tell you it should, well, you are absolutely in the right place. Let's unpack the real numbers together. Okay, let's dive into this. $600,000. This is the massive headline you see plastered everywhere, right? The average retiree has over 600 grand. It sounds fantastic. I mean, it makes you think the system is completely working. But here's the thing. This golden number is actively creating false expectations. Honestly, it's kind of one of the most misleading statistics in all of personal finance. To see exactly why, let me introduce you to Linda. Linda worked for 41 years, raised 2 kids, and literally never missed a payment. But her actual reality? It's a $1,900 Social Security check, a rising Medicare premium, and roughly $110,000 in savings. She sits at her kitchen table, looks at that $600,000 headline, and naturally wonders where she went wrong. But the truth? Linda didn't go wrong at all. The real issue is how that flashy headline is actually calculated. Picture your favorite neighborhood bar. There are 10 regulars hanging out, and nobody in the room is worth more than 50 grand. Then Jeff Bezos walks through the door and grabs a stool at the end of the bar. Boom. Suddenly, the average net worth in that room is $2 billion. Now, statistically, that number is true, but it tells you absolutely nothing about the ordinary people actually sitting there. It's the same with retirement. When a few incredibly wealthy retirees walk into the economic data set, everyone's average suddenly looks amazing. But if we throw out that distorted average and look at the median, the person standing exactly in the middle of the pack, the reality drops off a cliff. For that same 65 to 74 age bracket, the median isn't $600,000, it's just $200,000. Bezos was basically sitting at the bar pulling the statistical average up the entire time. Now you might be thinking $200,000 still sounds like a solid chunk of money, and it does, until you actually try to live on it. Let's apply the 4% rule. That's the standard financial guideline for how much you can safely withdraw each year without running the well dry. 4% of $200,000 is $8,000 a year. Break that down, and it's just $667 a month. Think about that. Decades of hard-earned savings spinning off the equivalent of a single car payment each month. Which brings us to a really stark realization. Because median 401k balances are spinning off just a few $100 a month, Social Security isn't just a nice supplementary bonus. It is the absolute foundation. Section 1, the Social Security Foundation. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is just how heavy that reliance is for everyday people. For 4 in 10 retirees, Social Security makes up the vast majority of what they live on. And for 1 in 7, it accounts for 90% or more of their total income. Let that sink in. That check isn't fun money for a beach vacation. That check is the groceries, the electricity bill, and the rent. It is 90% of literally everything they have. But here's the huge red flag, the major crack in that foundation. The trust fund behind these benefits is projected to run short around 2033. If Congress doesn't act, we aren't looking at zero, but we are looking at an automatic, roughly 23% pay cut. For a typical couple, that comes out to about a $16,500 loss every single year, and that's landing squarely on the shoulders of the people who literally cannot absorb the blow. So against all of those massive headwinds, how much are people actually supposed to have? Well, surveyed Americans say their personal magic number for a comfortable retirement is $1.26 million. But look at the stark reality for the 55 to 64 age group. These are the people in the final stretch. Their median savings sit at just $185,000. It's kind of darkly funny in a way. They are entering the marathon with roughly 1/7 of the fuel they themselves believe they need to finish the race. And I want to be incredibly clear here because this is absolutely vital. Falling short like this, it is not a story about millions of people lacking willpower or buying too many fancy lattes. It is a map of deep systemic flaws. Women earn less over time, take vital time out for caregiving, and generally live longer. And the racial wealth canyon means totally different starting blocks for different demographics. People can see this retirement gap perfectly well, they just can't close it on the wages the system actually pays them. Let's move to and see how this builds. Section 2, the healthcare cost ambush. Because right when you think you've calculated your overhead and got your budget dialed in, there is a massive bill waiting to ambush you in the parking lot on your way out. Take a look at this staggering number. According to Fidelity's estimates, a single 65-year-old retiring today should expect to spend $172,500 on healthcare. For a married couple, go ahead and double that. This isn't a luxury travel fund. This is just to cover medical bills. It's an expense so large it can swallow an entire median life savings whole and then come right back for seconds. And honestly, the truly cruel part? That first number doesn't even include long-term care. Someone turning 65 today has a 70% chance of needing some version of assisted living or a nursing home during their lifetime. And a private room now runs well north of $100,000 for a single year. One bad health year, just one, and an entire lifetime of careful savings is simply gone. And this brilliantly illustrates the disconnect we're facing. When you ask Americans what they think their healthcare will cost them, the typical guess is around $75,000. But the actual reality is more than double that at $172,000. We literally have an entire generation planning and budgeting for a mild rainstorm while walking completely unaware directly into a financial hurricane. Which explains why the fantasy of the completely debt-free retiree is quickly fading away. Today, more than 4 in 10 retirees in that 65 to 74 bracket carry credit card debt. And more people are dragging their mortgages right across the finish line. And look, they aren't financing luxury boats. They are charging basic groceries, utilities, and medical bills on credit cards with 22% compounding interest. When your fixed income is taking a casual stroll, but your compounding debt is sprinting, you are on a treadmill that you can't just walk off of. Section 3. The work longer fantasy. Faced with all this terrifying math, almost everyone instinctively jumps to the exact same defense mechanism. Fine, I'll just keep working longer. It sounds like a bulletproof plan, right? But relying on the labor market in your late 60s is heavily flawed. 3/4 of workers say they plan to keep working in retirement, but only a third actually manage to pull it off. The median expected retirement age is 65, but the reality on the ground is 62. Why? Because most early retirements are actually forced by things totally outside a worker's control. We're talking a sudden health problem, a disability, or corporate layoffs that inevitably target the oldest, most expensive employees. Working longer isn't a plan. Actually, scratch that. It's a wish that requires both your body and the economy to fully cooperate. So, how did it get this hard? Back in the 1980s, roughly 6 in 10 private workers had a guaranteed pension. A steady check for life. Today, that number has completely plummeted to just around 4%. The guaranteed leg of the retirement stool got sawed completely off. And the result? The risk was quietly transferred right off the corporate balance sheet and dumped straight onto Linda's kitchen table in the form of an individual 401k. Section 4. Taking back your retirement. So, the system has handed you all the risk. What do you actually do? We obviously can't single-handedly fix the macroeconomic problems, but sitting in the dark just isn't an option. Let's look at the proactive, actionable levers you can pull right now to safeguard your financial future. First, optimize your Social Security timing. Claiming at the wrong moment can literally cost you up to $180,000 in lifetime benefits. That decision is absolutely huge. Second, maximize your health savings accounts, or HSAs. Think of them as a triple tax-free cheat code, specifically built for that massive healthcare ambush we talked about. And third, absolutely refuse to walk in the retirement feeding a 22% credit card. Wiping that debt out before you retire is a guaranteed 22% return, which easily beats anything the stock market can ever promise you. So, the crucial point is this. When you're sitting at your own kitchen table, please don't let the headlines make you feel like you failed. The average retiree with $600,000 is just Jeff Bezos sitting at the end of the data set. None of these numbers are a verdict on your personal willpower. They are simply a map of a system that shifted its burden directly to you. But here's the good news. You do not have to be the average, because the average is a ghost. You are a real person who can run your own real numbers. Forget the tidy statistics and those highly misleading headlines. The only number that actually matters is yours, exactly what you uniquely need to live the life you actually want. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this one thought to chew on. Have you found your real number yet? Take control, do the math, and step out of the shadow of the average. Thanks so much for joining me today, and I'll see you in the next explainer.